Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the kind words of introduction to our program director and also for the invitation extended to the Department of Community Safety to present to you this morning. The presentation is made up of two parts quickly. I'm going to very briefly speak about the adoption of the strategic objective number 5 by the provincial government and our pathway to learning over the last 3 years that will continue over another 2 years. And then we'll also then speak about 2 practical examples which were part of the pilots that we've been running over the last 2 years. Now, in 2009, 2010, the Western Cape government adopted 12 provincial strategic objectives, of which strategic objective 5 was about increasing safety. We then started and we commissioned research, so-called deep dive research, with the University of Cape Town School of Criminology, in which we looked at 7 current projects which were commonly known or accepted to be very effective. I've just listed some of them there: the city improvement districts, the violence prevention through urban upgrade, and the BKM neighborhood watch model. Now, during this deep dive research done by the people, as you say, with the white jackets and the long titles, we basically assume that the end result will be a best practice model. But they actually delivered quite a different result. Firstly, they said to us the definition of insanity as Einstein defined it, doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. So we had to accept that, bank, move on. The second one that they said, well, there is no one-size-fits-all approach to safety. The way that you deal with crime or drugs in Hanover Park is very different from the way that you deal with drugs and crime maybe in Merweville, as an example. So instead of best practices, they came up with 4 design principles. And they said whatever projects you now design, you need to measure them through a multiple perspective lens. You need to look at these projects through these design principles. Now, at the very serious risk of oversimplification, and we will be available if there's more information needed, but those design principles are then fix the future. When you come with a project to look at increasing safety, aim at how do we fix the future. Secondly, have a whole of society approach, and that is what we are here today, the partnerships, but I'll speak a bit more about what is the whole of society concept as defined by the Department of Community Safety. Then they also importantly, and Rich already spoke about it, don't see your safety budget as a law enforcement budget only. You understand, if you have a problem with access control, you don't necessarily have to appoint more security guards. Maybe you can put up better lighting, maybe you can put up a biometric system or whatever the case may be, but don't look at only as a law enforcement budget. And then the last one was focusing on reducing the opportunities for crime. Now, that is also then part of the conversation in terms of the Community Safety Act. And as you'll see there in the time frame as well, we went through a pre-design year, a design year, a pilot year, a learning and implementation, and we are now in the learning and the rollout phase of this project. Now, the Community Safety Act was written also for the purpose. Now, many of you, and I again see the faces around the table, have been working with government for a long time. Now, partnering with government, somebody once said to me, it's like having a blind date where people forget to bring their wallet when the bill comes. So it is therefore important that when you look at it, you understand the non-human systems that exist in government as well. Because government is also greatly affected by these so-called non-human systems. And then I'm talking about language that you may know, the annual performance plan or the APP of government. the MTEF, the multi-term expenditure framework, which is our budget, but very importantly also the laws. Government does what laws say we must do. And that is why the Community Safety Act has also now been drafted to give effect to many of these ideas that we have. We actually do not exist in isolation, as we know, so it's also about mapping what we're doing with the national priority. Now, the National Development Plan, you all know about that, in Chapter 12, page 350, makes 5 recommendations for how do we build safer communities. And that is the first one, strengthening the criminal justice system, making the police service professional, demilitarize the police service, build safety using an integrated approach, what's also been spoken about this morning, and then the last one, build community participation in community safety. However, when we look at those 5 recommendations from a provincial perspective, we have to consider also, of course, the constitutional framework that exists. Now, when we look at the constitutional framework, the involvement of provincial government in terms of bullets 1, 2, and 3 is very, very limited. As you know, police is a national competency. We don't have any operational control over the police. But the province do, however, in terms of Section 206 of the Constitution, have a powerful mandate of civilian oversight or oversight over the police. Now again, people may ask, why do you want to pick a fight with the police when they carry guns, you understand? That's not what we want to do. Again, we need to look at, you understand, what has happened in the last 10 years in our country. Let's take, for example, the budget of police went from 7.5 or 7.8 billion rand to more than 65 billion rand now. You understand? So we are spending more than 240, 250 million rand per day on running our police. The number of police officials have doubled in the last 10 years. So it can't be just about more resources. We now need to use the oversight mandate also to ensure that we do get efficient, effective service delivery value for our money. Then the second 2 bullets, the building of the integrated approach, and you've got copies of the Act in front of you. Again, you'll see that Section 8 of the Act speaks about an integrated information system. Now again, integration in government is something that we're always confronted with. But it's not easy because of the non-human systems that exist, different accounting officers, different budgeted. You understand? It's not easy to put this all together. So what we envisage to do in the Act is to start by developing an integrated information system. Now the reason for that, again, you understand, historically, government will assign its resources, safety resources, based on crime stats. Now, there are 2 problems with that. The first one, crime stats is a poor indicator of safety. It's like the fire brigade. When you get there, the building is burning already. So where's the fire going to be? Well, it's here. The other one is, of course, the fact that we, as provincial government, we get the crime stats about 18 months late. Then we need to assign and align our budgets, which takes another year at least. So our lead time between the crime happening and the resources being allocated at a systemic level, I'm not talking about rapid response, I'm talking at a systemic level, is about 2 years, and that's not good enough. And you'll see that on the table that we've also got what we call the shadow report on safety information. And the rationale behind that is to say, in that particular report, we used mortuary data as to identify trends that exist in murders. We could profile the murder victim based on the information. We could identify what time, what place the murder occurred, and so forth. Was it with a knife? Was it with a firearm? Whatever the case may be. And that information is immediately available. It does not exist in the criminal justice domain, but it exists within provincial government. Then also the question of building community safety partnerships, and that's the 2 examples that I'm going to run through quickly. The one partnership that I want to present to you is one with the community safe police forums. Now again, the criminal justice system exists in a very highly regulated environment. those that have tried to work in the environment of prisons or in the police will agree with me that you can't just go to a prison and say, I'm here to interview the prisoners or I'm here to inspect the police station. So therefore, we also looked at the legal mandate that community police forums have, and we're talking about a partnership with about 1,400 plus members of the community, 149 police stations, the police management, and the department. Now, that's quite a complex partnership to set up. And we then developed the expanded partnership program, which is then basically a system that captures the service delivery standards linked to a financial model and measurable outcomes. Let me try and defend that statement. We went through a functional, we call it a functionality audit instead of the baseline report that you said, but also then, why is this necessary? It's kind of, our memories are a bit short. When you start with the thing and things change, and then it's difficult to measure at the end of the day what progress did I make. Now, having a baseline report, other than what was already said, the importance of it also gives you a nice basis from where you can measure progress. The audit that we did, of course, as we could expect, found that the CPFs exist at different levels of functionality, from those that are very functional and contribute significantly to safety, to those that are dysfunctional. They do not exist. Also, again, the current one-size-fits-all approach to training and support was not very effective. Let me just jump through this. The intended outcome, again, we want to support all 149 CPFs in all the areas to introduce a structured process for CPFs which we can measure and direct at important statutory role that they fulfill. And also then institutionalize the concepts of behavioral economics. I can speak about this a bit later. But there you can actually see in a schematic model, it's about taking the legal mandate of CPFs, translate those to service standards, then measure the service standards against, or performance against the service standards. The payment is then linked to that model, and the performance reports again then feeds back into the service standards. Let me give you a bit more practical example. Section 18(1)(b) of the South African Police Act reads as follows. So community police forums are responsible to promote communication between the service and the community. But what does it mean? What are the activities that go with it? So what we did is we designed a number. We sat down with the partners as recommended by Rich. We sat down with the partners and we developed service standards. For instance, how often do you have a public meeting? How often do you have, hopefully, a breakfast like this? So how often do you sit down with the station commander and you have a formal conversation about the safety concerns in the area? And that is again then linked to an electronic system. All of these reports get submitted via the internet, and we are able, as you can see the graph down below, we are able now to measure how many of those 149 CPFs are performing those functions. As I said, it's done on the internet. The impact of the model, we are now this year, we will be able to spend 4.7 million rand to CPFs. Again, this is a way that we can channel the money to the local CPF. That's where the funds are most needed. And we don't prescribe to them what they must do with the money. If they meet their standards, they get paid, or the money is allocated to them, and then they must have a community meeting where they decide what they want to do with the money. We sit back and we measure and we encourage and we influence as far as we can that they assign their resources based on our 4 design principles. But we do not tell them what to do with the money. Funding provided to CPFs used for some very innovative community projects that I can share with you later on if need be. Again, some examples of the current levels of performance. We are now able, with the press of a button, to see which police stations are not meeting with the CPFs, in which police stations complaints from the community is not recorded, and so on. The second project, very briefly, is the Chrysalis Academy. Many of you may know about the Chrysalis Academy around the table. But what we have done is we have focused on the opportunity and linked the current program with the expanded public works program. Now, the expanded public works program is a national priority. President Zuma committed himself to creating 5 million jobs in the next 3-4 years. So therefore, there's a lot of money at national available if we can link our current programs with that. And that's also important, I think, as you said, Rich, in terms of reviewing your projects, because opportunities come up and go all the time, and you need to be able to align your projects with the opportunities that exist. In this case, through doing that, we could access an additional 36 million rand on our budget in order then to take the youth that graduate from Chrysalis and put them on a work program. Now, one of our partners in that, in Sporting Charge, Brad, is sitting here. They've taken 8 of the graduates. We pay the salary for 6 months, and they then use them and they train them in the environment that they work. Again, it's different. It's some of them are deployed at city improvement districts. Some of them are employed in ventures capital. You understand? There's a lot of opportunities that we, in that way, will create for the youngsters. Thank you kindly.